Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Long time no speak. So I actually wanted to make this video in regards to just, I wanted to make this for myself and for anybody that's really wanting to get better at preparation and really contemplation on, just getting better in regionals. And this is my in-depth analysis. This will be pretty much my first one that I've kind of done, so this might be a little rambly, but I'm going to try to make it as entertaining and just interesting and, intuitive as possible. Ooh, let me fix this really quick. I don't know what that's about. Probably just in testing, fixing the spread. Okay, cool. Anyways, this is my team that I brought to the Orlando Regional Championships. I ended up going 5-4, which before you click off or anything like that, realize I learned a lot in this tournament, and I'm a very consistent, I normally go 6-3, kind of get close to my winning in and end up just barely missing out. This time, I technically did quote-unquote worse. However, what I really learned from this was a lot more valuable than if I would have day 2'd. So what I want to be able to do is kind of go over what had happened and where I could have done things a little bit differently moving forward, and really just delve into my matches. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to break down my team and tell you the reasoning behind a lot of the team and why I thought that this would be a really good call going into the Orlando Regionals. Spoilers, it wasn't. But I will tell you the reasoning why in my in-depth analysis in just a bit. So, alright. First off, we're going to start with my trusty steed, Farigiraf. It is my favorite competitive Pokemon personally, if you know me. I love Farigiraf. I love everything about Farigiraf. And this spread is specifically meant to live multiple different things. So it takes a lot of special attacks like from Flutter Mains. It's able to live multiple hits from Surging Strikes into another, physical attack. This Farigiraf spread is just perfect for me. I've gotten really comfortable with the calcs, which if you guys are running a Mon into a regional, be comfortable with what it can and can't take and how much damage it delivers. This Farigiraf spread, I specifically have it to where I know pretty much all the ins and outs of this spread. So that's the whole reason on why it's not going to be like super specific and in-depth, like, oh, I use this specific spread to live, Terra Normal Hyper Voice. No, this one is to live 90% of situations, and those 90% of situations are perfect for me. So I normally go Terra Fairy. The reason I went Terra Fire is my team is really weak to Chi-Yu Flutter. So just in case that came up, Terra Fire was a little bit more consistent, and Terra Fire could live Terra Fire Ogerpons. So that was also a nice little touch. And yeah, it's a very standard Farigiraf. I did not run Hyper Voice because I really do think it's preference. I like being able to utilize Dazzling Gleam to break sashes on even Terra Ghost Mons and being able to do consistent chip on everything. That's why I run Dazzling Gleam. You are more than welcome to run Hyper Voice, but Dazzling Gleam for me is just more consistent, and Psychic is just more stab. Like, yeah, Psychic Noise, you can block like specific things, like I get that. But the reason on why I run Psychic is because it does phenomenal damage when I need it to, and really good chip when I need it to. It does one-shot Urshifu's, so if Urshifu's are, not respecting it, and you can just take it off the board right there. So, yeah, and then Trick Room. My team is very Trick Room heavy. I will be going into it a little bit more, talking into these next two Pokemon. This Torkoal, I'm not really going to go too far in depth. Torkoal was a solid call. I really liked it, except for one big major issue. Torkoal sets up Raging Bolt, which was a problem. If Raging Bolt wasn't a thing, Torkoal would have been the perfect Pokemon. And I get that I have answers for Raging Bolt, but when you have to play almost perfectly, it's really difficult. But the reason I did bring Torkoal was because it was just, I really like the Helping Hand boosted Fluttermane in the sun, and Fluttermane getting the speed boost and then being able to kind of sweep. And if people don't respect my Torkoal, I can literally just one-shot it with things like Eruption, Overheat, and Torkoal can 1v1 Gouging Fires and Incineroars with Earth Power. So, super simple. It's the reason on why I did run Torkoal for this tournament, and I wanted my Trick Room mode to be really powerful. My next Pokemon that I'm going to talk about is my specific Urshifu that I ended up bringing. It was Brave Mint Speed. Now, a lot of individuals might think how useless this is, but it was a perfect call. I just needed to build the rest of the team a little bit better to support it. Terra Poison Choice Banded Urshifu with Mint Speed. I undersped Raging Bolt, and that was just more than enough for me to know, like, you're underspeeding Rillaboom, you're underspeeding Raging Bolt, you're underspeeding a lot of Incineroars, because a lot of Incineroars were trying to speed creep to beat other Incineroars in the Fake Out games. So, this was a really solid call, and locking yourself into Wicked Blow, even into resist hits, was still doing just stupid amounts of damage. So, this was pretty much my tech to this tournament. I really think, and I still recommend this, don't try to get like over convoluted going, oh, well, I'm going to start bringing like Toxapex. It's like, don't get like, don't burn down the kitchen. Like, how you can throw people off in Pokemon is something as simple as different spreads and different ways to utilize very common mons. Not too many people knew about Choice Banded Urshifu. Like, it was floating around, but not too many people calced for it. So you could really throw some individuals off with Helping Handed Wicked Blows. It really did mess up so many different types of archetypes and was so successful into so many different squads. I was really glad I came up with this. And I did have some help with a buddy of mine just letting me know, like, hey, Mint Speed underspeeds Raging Bolt. So it very much is just, I love that mon, and it has just been amazing for me. So, next up I'm going to talk about is Ogerpon Cornerstone. Now, very easy, super simple set. You can really throw people off with just, being able to just Ivy Cudgel when they think you're going to just Follow Me Trick Room. And Follow Me Trick Room is just a consistent way to Trick Room. And Rock Stab was a really good call. Specifically speaking, Incineroar is running everywhere. You're neutral into Raging Bolt, so you're also better into Ogerpons. Like opposing Ogerpons, you're able to go for safe plays. So yeah, that's pretty much Ogerpon Cornerstone. Really simple, don't overthink it. I ran Power Whip because there are scenarios where you want to keep sturdy, believe it or not. So Power Whip is the move. Some individuals run Wood Hammer because they're like, you want to die. It's like, yeah, but if you're clicking the offensive move, you want that piece on the field still. So I run Power Whip on Cornerstone specifically. I run Wood Hammer on the others if I'm ever trying to go for just super offense because I don't want to miss. But Power Whip is definitely the way to go for Cornerstone if you run it. It's just my opinion. Fluttermane. So Fluttermane is Fluttermane. I don't really need to delve in more. This spread is absolutely disgusting. So this is one of those spreads where I'm able to take special attacks really, really well. I do enough damage to where it's meaningful, and I can still take one-shots and clean up and sweep really effectively. And, yeah, I was outspeeding other Fluttermanes while having decent bulk. That's pretty much it. I mean, yes, I still folded to a lot of physical attacks, but I really wasn't positioning Flutter to really take those without having a plan. So, Flutter, love this, loved the call, love Fluttermane. And it's very simple. The Sun was able to give me another mode so that, I could utilize a super fast Mon if I needed to, if I couldn't reliably get Trick Room up. And then Blood Moon. So this Blood Moon set, it might seem weird to a lot of individuals that I went bold. Like, oh my gosh, you're life orbed and you went bold? Yes. For a very specific scenario. So, a lot of individuals were running Choice Scarfed Urshifu Rapid Strike. With this type of build, you're able to, and let me break down all my little modifiers here, but you're able to live a close combat every time, no matter what, other than a crit. After that defense drop, you're able to one-shot it even with spread damage on Hyper Voice. So you're still doing meaningful damage to everything else. Like, your Earth Power is still doing incredible amounts of damage to anything that you're hitting Earth Power with. But reason being on why I ran it this way is specifically because I'm able to one-shot and still be able to take that close combat. So yeah, that's the breakdown of my team. I really wanted Trick Room to get up. Now let me kind of break down. I know I went a little bit, wow, talking for 11 minutes. See, rambling. We'll get better at this. Anyways, so that's the breakdown of my team. It really did, it did really well. Now the biggest things that I will say before I break down my matches were Amoonguss and Raging Bolt was incredibly hard to play into. It was really difficult for me. So yeah. Now I'm gonna break down my matches, and I'm gonna try to keep this as entertaining and interesting as possible while giving you guys the insight. Stick around please to the end, as I will go over my findings very in depth, and I hope what my mistakes were can help you guys in your preparations. So my first round was against someone by the name of Alan Harris. Alan finished 3-6. And he played really, really well. This was actually one of my closer matches. He just played very, very well. So, I do want to kind of go over what I ended up seeing with Alan. So his team was Water Ogerpon, Tornadus, Raging Bolt, Urshifu, Single Strike, Incineroar, and Golden Go with a Metal Coat. So pretty much what ended up happening in this matchup, I way overthought game one, and I let Golden Go actually just kind of sweep through my Mons. So I way overthought it. I led Farigiraf and look at this. Yeah, I led Farigiraf and Ogerpon. I let him get, nasty plots and set him up. But then I realized, I was like, well, if I lead Farigiraf Blood Moon, what do you do? So that realization was I needed to slow down and just realize, like, okay, I have an answer into all of this, so I'm just going to lead Farigiraf Blood Moon. If you led the Urshifu, I can just switch out my Blood Moon, and if you don't, I just Terra Normal, go in. So yeah, first round went pretty decently. Went to a game 3 just because overthought the first round, but the next 2 rounds were pretty easy and quick. Now, my second round was against an individual by the name of Brian Wheeler. Now, Brian had a very similar team to me, but he was running Iron Hands, Clear Amulet, Enamorus, the Ugly Turtle form, Torkoal with Choice Specs, Water Pond, Farigiraf with Goggles, and a banded Urshifu. Now, biggest thing that I realized with this type of core is this was one of my quicker matchups. This was my 2-0, one of my 2-0s that was just incredibly fast. I realized he did not have an answer for Blood Moon. So if I just led Blood Moon and Fluttermane, I just Terra'd my Blood Moon, and Icy Wind with Fluttermane if they led Urshi, and I was able just to sweep from there. So super quick, super easy to talk about. Just what I will say with noticing after these first 2 matches, slow down. You might have an immediate win con against your opponent, depending on how your team is built. So slow down and really make sure that you weigh out those odds. All right, next up was my round 3. My round 3 was against somebody by the name of Diego Aguirre. And Diego had quite the interesting team. You know, it was really, really out there, like super. No, it was Nil's team. The winner of EUIC, so the Terraflying, Porygon 2, Ensign, Flutter, Scarfed Urshi, Water, Rapid Strike, Ursaluna, and Amoonguss. So, I actually really liked going into this team because a lot of individuals that I've played, like in preparation against with this team specifically, did not respect the damage output of Urshifu. So a lot of Porygon 2s would be like, well, I'm just gonna Terra. I easily led just Flutter Urshi a lot with having Torkoal and Farigiraf in the back. And if they were like, man, I'm gonna bring my Scarfed Urshi, I could switch Urshifu out into Torkoal, one-shot their Urshifu. And if they set Trick Room, they had to deal with Torkoal. Yes, they had Amoonguss, but this specific Amoonguss was actually Terra Ghost on this variant of Nil's team. Sometimes they go like Terra Fairy. I was most scared of Terra Water, but because it was Terra Ghost, Torkoal really just loved it. So that was pretty much it. That matchup was really easy for me because you can safely just click Wicked Blow into Porygon 2, and you're doing 70 to 80% with a Choice Banded Wicked Blow. So, didn't really need to overthink that matchup. It was actually pretty easy, so, yeah. Alright. Next up, had to kind of gather that there. Okay. Next up was my 4th round against Nicholas Del Campo. Looks like he ended up day 2ing. This was actually a 2-0 for me. It was actually a fairly quick match. Nicholas ended up running a team of Annihilate, Gouging Fire, Ogerpon Water, Dragonite, Raging Bolt, and Chien Pao. Now, the thing about Dragonite Pao for me, yeah, it was just... It was not a hard matchup for me. This team was really weak too if I set Trick Room. And I got Ursaluna in safely without getting snarled. I pretty much just swept. It was very simple. Both games just went to set up my Trick Room. Game 1 I led Ogerpon, Farigiraf. They led, surprisingly enough, they led Dragonite, Gouging Fire, trying to set up the Dragonite. So I just clicked Ivy Cudgel into the Dragonite slot, and I don't know if they were thinking like I might just follow me, but they just stayed in, no Terra, let me take the Dragonite out, and because I was slower than Gouging Fire the next turn, I was able just to hit it with Ivy Cudgel even after they tried to Howl, and I really don't know what they were trying to do. Like, I really think they thought I would follow me this game 1, but needless to say, once I got Trick Room up, game was pretty much over because once they took out Ogerpon, Urshifu, Ursaluna literally just swept, and both games actually ended up like that. So, and now this is where the learnings come into play. So, as you guys can notice, 4-0, 0-4. Now, the thing that I will say is this was a bit, of course, defeating. However, really trying to make sure that you recenter yourself, you need to make sure if you want to do really well in a very competitive setting, no matter what type of sport it is, you need to understand that you have to find a way to recenter yourself. This match that I'm going to go into did trigger me because of a specific calc that I had showcased. Essentially speaking, what happened was I was very much ready to have my game 3. against a Scarfed Urshifu Rapid, and pretty much they ended up getting the crit on close combat. So during game 3, I decided, so let me break down the team first, okay? So Arath was an amazing player, a super wholesome human being, but it was just very defeating, knowing that, like, I planned for a way, and sometimes your plans don't go the way that you think, okay? But his team was Lando I, Chien-Pao, Amoonguss, Raging Bolt, Urshi Rapid, and Incineroar. Incineroar had Citrus, Rapid was Scarf, Raging Bolt was AV, Amoonguss was the Rocky Helmet, Chien-Pao Focus Sash, and Lando I, of course, was the Life Orb. Now, the biggest thing that I knew with this type of team was Raging Bolt, the AV Bolt, just was really hard to go up against. It was pretty scary. This was kind of like a Japan balance, but instead of the booster energy bolt, it was AV. So the biggest thing that I've learned in my practice during this point is, you know, you really just don't want to let snarls, let them get free snarls into your special attackers. So, like, for instance, I do not want to take a snarl into my Ursaluna if I don't have to, because that damage mitigation is so severe. It really does affect it. So I really wanted to make sure if I brought Torkoal, if I brought Blood Moon, that I wasn't letting them just take free snarls. So, each of my matches was, just to keep it short, each of my matches was pretty close. Biggest thing, game 1, I really let Snarl kind of affect me, because I switched in Blood Moon too soon. So what ended up happening was that Snarl ended up just affecting Blood Moon to where, like, they could just really take initiative of that game. So it, yeah, pretty much just to kind of, like, summarize that, don't let Blood Moon take a Snarl. All right, and then game 2, realized that, ended up letting Urshifu just really take out a few things, and really just didn't let the snarls affect me that much. So it was nice. Urshifu really just completely carried a few matches. The Choice Banded Terra Poison jabs really came in clutch in those reads, and the rest of his team really didn't like the Terra Poison jab. Like, so I knew that it was pretty safe. Red, the Terra Fairy on Raging Bolt, one-shot it, able to win. Now, game 3 was the big one, and I decided if I lead Blood Moon for Rigarath, I will be able to catch them off guard, because I feel as though their best lead at this point is Amoonguss, Choice Scarf, Rapid. So, most Blood Moons will immediately fall to a close combat. I knew they would think this and go, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this, and I am going to close combat into the Blood Moon and Spore for Rigarath. So, Terra Normaled, got crit. Needless to say, game ended right there. It just did. Amoonguss was able to just Spore everything super nicely and super cleanly. So, super clean play, and yeah, we just end up taking that L. My next game was against Tim Edwards. Now, Tim, runner-up at EUIC. It was the best set of Pokemon I think I've ever played, just hands down. It was one of the craziest sets I've ever played. It was phenomenal. He brought his team that he brought at EUIC, so Raging Bolt, Rillaboom, Ogerpon Hearthflame, Incineroar, Focus Sash, Rapid Foo, and the Fluttermane. So, the biggest thing that I will say involving this match was I knew that Trick Room for me was something I wanted and something almost necessary. The big thing, though, that he was able to kind of see was his Incin was slower than my Urshifu, so he did have a bulkier Incineroar. So it was really hard for me to take advantage of my Trick Room the way that I wanted to with just Urshifu. So I ended up losing game 1 because he realized that fairly quickly and was able to capitalize on that. Kind of what I wanted to do with my Urshifu. Now game 2 is where things got a bit crazy. So like I said, I was realizing, okay, my Urshifu is slower, or faster, technically, than his Incin. And the way that he was playing, I was able to really predict, like, okay, he's going to overpredict me. He's thinking, you know, like, I'm going to go for the obvious type of plays, or the not obvious type of plays, I should say, and try to read him. So he led Incineroar, Flutter Mane, and I led Urshifu Farigiraf. He decided, okay, I'm going to switch in my Raging Bolt because he's obviously just going to go for Trick Room. I read that, and I did still go for Trick Room, but I went for Close Combat into Incineroar immediately just so I could take it off the board. End up taking Incineroar early. Ended up playing a really solid game because being locked into Close Combat at -1 was not good. So switched out into my Blood Moon, took a Snarl. He was able to wait out my Trick Room with that, and needless to say, the end of the game came down to Farigiraf and Choice Banded Urshi versus his Urshi and his Ogerpon. I needed to go for the Sucker Punch into his Urshifu. He had taken enough damage to where Choice Banded Sucker Punch would kill, and Ogerpon was just going to take out my Farigiraf so that it would just be Urshifu versus Ogerpon. Now, locking into Sucker Punch, you would think, well, that's silly. So he spammed Spiky Shield to where I ran out of Sucker Punches. He had about 25 to 30% health. Terrafire, Ivy Cudgel, I lived on 3 with my Urshifu, and Struggle was able to take him out. So we are now at a game 3 situation where I win with Struggle. Now, in this match, I was able to notate game 1 2 Spiky Shield turns, where I was faster than his Ogerpon. In game 3, I ended up leading my Ogerpon and my Farigiraf as he led his Ogerpon and his Flutter Mane. Or actually, he led his Ogerpon and his Rillaboom. Now, what I ended up doing here is I decided I'm going to Spiky Shield so that I don't take the Fake Out. Or, I mean, so that I don't take Woodhammer and Ivy Cudgel. But we both Spiky Shielded on this turn, and I was the faster Spiky Shield again. So I was like, okay, I think I'm faster. That's 3 Spiky Shield that I won. So, if I can pave an endgame where Ogerpon is versing Ogerpon, I can win this. So, needless to say, I set my Trick Room, take a Woodhammer, and the next play that I end up doing is I let Ogerpon take some damage, going for the Ivy Cudgel into the Ogerpon Hearthflame slot. He switches into Raging Bolt. Needless to say, I took just enough to where I took 60% is what I wrote down from the Woodhammer, which was kind of crazy. Like, just means super bulky, or Rilla, like a bit bulkier. So I ended up taking about 60%, and I was like, okay, I need to make sure I save this for the end game. I did pave the end game to where it was Ogerpon v Ogerpon, and my Sturdy was knocked, so whoever won, whoever was faster at the end after Trick Room, was the winner, and came down to the speed tie, and yeah, didn't know it would be, and he won it. So that was a loss, but I'm not too disappointed at this point. That match, I was very excited, and it was really fun for me. I really, really liked that match. So, yeah. Next up, Ben. This is where it got really defeating for me. So Ben was running a Amoonguss, Roaring Moon, Porygon 2, Incin, Golden-Go, Lando I squad. So the biggest thing that I realized with Ben's team was, you know, I could easily take advantage of them not understanding my Urshi calcs. So what ended up happening in this game was, and like I'm saying, you got to be able to take games with grains of salt. They led Roaring Moon P2. I led Farigarath Urshifu. I predicted his Roaring Moon to go for Terra Flying Acrobatics into my Urshifu. So I was just going to go for the Terra Poison Wicked Blow into the Roaring Moon, knowing that the Wicked Blow would take it out, and then just switch my Farigarath into Blood Moon, because like I really did not I knew pretty much that they're not going to Ice Beam into my Farigarath slot. They're probably just going to go for Terra Blast. So I was like, okay, I can just bring in Blood Moon here pretty safely. And what ended up happening is they end up going for Acrobatics into my Urshifu. It crits, and it is a one-shot with the crit. So I go down, and then the Porygon 2 actually just goes for the Terra Blast, and it crit again, which was just really bad. So it one-shot my Blood Moon. And if it didn't one-shot my Blood Moon, sorry. Blood Moon was at 16 HP after that, which essentially, Life Orb, I get 2 more turns at most. So right there, I'm like, okay, well, shoot, that match is over. So next round, I'm like, okay, well, they're probably still going to lead, like Roaring Moon Incin, Roaring Moon Goldengo. And I'm leaning really heavily. I'm like, you know what? I really think they want to lead Roaring Moon Goldengo. I just have this feeling. So I'm going to lead Flutter Mane Urshifu. Now, their Roaring Moon is booster attack. So, what I thought was, if you lead Goldengo Roaring Moon, what I can do is, again, lock myself into Icy Wind this time. Urshifu's not gonna be faster than Roaring Moon after that. However, locking myself into Icy Wind will make it to where the next turn, because my Urshifu is so slow, when the Goldengo protects itself or Terra Fairies, the Icy Wind is going to be able to make it slower, so Urshifu can take it out at that point. Roaring Moon Terra Flyings. I knew that this would happen, so I Terra Poisoned. Goldengo ends up going for Protect, predicting probably like Shadow Ball. And the Goldengo ends up getting the Protect off, so he doesn't get his speed drop. And again, the Acrobatics does crit my Urshifu. And one-shots. So, and after damage calcs, even with booster attack with this exact spread, you need the crit to kill every time. So, it was super disappointing. It was super defeating. The next hit came up. This was a Leftovers Goldengo. I knew I'd be able to live a singular Mega Rain. So I decided, okay, I'm going to bring out Ogerpon. And then what I'm going to do is even though I'm locked into Icy Wind, I'm going to just spam the Icy Wind here. Make them think that they need to switch. Or actually, no. Sorry, I brought in Ogerpon last. My gosh, I need to get better at my storytelling. Jeez Louise. I knew that if I could Icy Wind, I'd be able to outspeed with Blood Moon on Goldengo. So, I Icy Winded so that I could outspeed this really bulky Goldengo. Icy Wind connects. I knew I could live at least one Make It Rain just with the spread that I have. And not only does it crit Flutter Mane, the Make It Rain, but it did crit my Blood Moon as well. So, needless to say, it was a little faster than I expected, which is something I should have been able to prepare for. And the other thing that I will take in and say is the crit was really, really bad into Blood Moon. What that crit did was I ended up living on 32 HP. So what ended up happening after that is, I mean, Life Orb Chip was just going to end up taking me out. So yeah, it was just Ogerpon, Ursaluna versus Roaring Moon, and then ended up sending out Lando I. I have nothing really for that at that point unless I can crit my Ivy Cudgel into it. So go for that. Didn't crit, and that was just that game. So we ended up losing to some pretty massive critical hits. They were detrimental. So in 2 rounds, took 6 critical hits that were game changing, and it was difficult. It really was. And then my last round, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. My last round really wasn't difficult. It was Ogerpon Hearthflame, Lando Eye, Torn, Clef, Golden Go, Ensign. Now, Justin was a great player. He played really well. I'm gonna say that just straightforward. Biggest thing that I will say, I was just triggered. I'm gonna be real. I was triggered on this match. I just was. That knocked me out of my day 2, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good from there. So the biggest thing that I will say with this match is I let Golden Go set up on me. It got 2 nasty plots both games, just because I just led my Ogerpon and Farigiraf both games, which of course is just so silly, and I know better. But then Tyler, it was a fun match, but I didn't notate anything down really, other than the fact that I just led Blood Moon Farigiraf, and just had fun. Helping Hand, it was Nil's team is what Tyler was running, but Helping Hand Blood Moon was just able to clean up a lot of that, and yeah, it was pretty simple match, pretty quick, just because I was able to regather myself. I'm like, you know what, no, this is just for fun, and every match needs to just be for fun. Every match needs to just be for fun. If I can tell you guys anything and all what I learned more than anything else in this tournament, it was everything you are doing is just for fun. Like, it is. You are going to this tournament, yes, to compete, but you need to realize your skill level. And if you're putting in the hours and you're putting in the practice, you are good at the game, okay? Like, if you are putting in actual practice, actually thinking about, like, things that you can improve upon, thinking about board states, actually challenging yourself to get better in areas that you're not, like EV spreads, different types of, like, what scenarios you're wanting to prepare for, how meta teams kind of, like, work together, team building, like, if you are challenging yourself in all of these different aspects all of the time and you are putting in that practice, I promise you, you are good enough at this game. You are beyond good enough. You are probably an amazing player, okay? Like, you just are. The biggest reason on why I did not day 2 this tournament, I will say my team was weak into Amoonguss Raging, but I will say this straightforward, I could have still day 2'd. I don't know about Top Cut, but I easily still could have done day 2. The thing that I will say is I took it way too seriously, and I got into my head way too much. I know that this tournament would have turned out differently if I didn't let this match specifically put me on edge. That crit really did put me on edge. But this is something I will tell all of you, is realize it's part of the game. They happen. Like, it's the game we all play. The element of this could happen does happen. So don't let yourself fall into, you know, despair because, oh man, I got crit. It's like, look, this individual day 2'd, right? Right there. And I 2-0'd them bad. I mean, it was bad. Like, it was one of my quickest matches, if not my quickest match of the day. It just was. And they were able to bounce back in day 2. Because they didn't get in their head. They had a good team. You know, like, being able to build and being able to trust yourself and go, you know what, hey, that was just a one-off. That was a hard match for me. But I'm going to go back. I know my team is good. And his team was good. His team was great. So, keeping it short, before I start to ramble any further, make sure you're having fun. Give yourself a slow down opportunity. Like, make sure you understand what you need to slow down. And that, you know, I'm not going to be some guru telling you like, oh, well, you need to meditate or you need to do something along these lines. But you do need to take the time to find out within yourself, like, hey, what is necessary to help you slow down and recenter? Because knowing that, especially in a sport that you want to be the best at, it's beyond helpful. It's beyond helpful because it can get you back into a state of flow, and it can help you really not put emotion into the game. And with that, I will say, I get excited, and that is something for me that I do need to really focus on as my development for a player. I am going to be going to Indianapolis. I will be going over the team that I am planning on bringing and the heavy prep that I do before regionals, because I truly think that prep work and understanding what the meta is going to look like and building your team around that really does help. It really does make all of the difference going into a regional and a big tournament setting. So at the moment of recording this video, I am at 305 points. I will be going to a MSS this weekend, finishing off Reg F. My team is going to be very similar to the one that I ran in the MSS in Orlando, which essentially is just a size spam type variant. Because Booster Special Attack Iron Crown is just awesome, and I love it. But needless to say, I'm proud of myself for being able to slow down and realize like what it does take as someone wanting to get better at something like this, and realizing what it is. I appreciate everybody for taking the time to watch this video and to listen into how my run at Orlando went. But really, if I could leave you guys with anything, it's just take your time. Think about every single play that can be made. Like, think about it. And before you click in and lock in your moves, realize something can happen. Think about the way that your opponent is playing. Take that into consideration. And play to your outs. And most of all, have fun. Just have fun. I promise you, if you're having fun and you humble yourself with your losses and actually want to get better, and you look at your losses and you go, okay, this is what I did wrong here. Perfect. I can improve for the next time. I promise you, you will become one of the best if you do not take any emotional attachment to your losses and or wins. You'll even be able to find improvement opportunities in your wins. So, before I ramble too long, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'm going to be actually doing a lot more content at High Ladder Pokemon Showdown, just so that we can really be pumping out some content and I can help a lot of individuals be ready for Indianapolis. Let's put in that prep. Let's get some wins. I hope you all continue to live large and have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much. Peace.